Today we're taking a look at the Aquareef, a watch created by Craig Golby, watch enthusiast turned watch strap salesman turned microbrand owner. Inspired by the likes of Chr.Ward and Omega, Craig took his passion for watches and launched his own brand on Kickstarter in 2023. Fast forward to today, Craig is following up that first release with a second watch, the Coastal, which debuts this Saturday, March 8th at British Watchmakers Day. We're going to take a look at this dual timer watch, talk about specs, discuss all the things Golby got right, and a few things that could be improved, and then we'll wrap it all up with a Golby watch strap fashion show on a few of my favorite watches. Finally, we're going to close out the video with a preview of the second watch from Golby, the Coastal. Let's start the unboxing and take a deep dive into the Aquareef. Alrighty, so we got the Golby branded box here on the desk. Very simple packaging, nice big Golby logo with the website on it. We've got the watch roll greeting us inside as soon as we open the box, which I'll pull out. Really nice Golby logo embossed on the leather there. It's always a nice touch when a company gives you something that you can use for travel or for storage, so this watch roll is really nice. It also would have been really easy just to throw in a generic watch roll. It is very cool that he was able to get that branded with his logo, so I like that a lot. We'll set that aside. Whatever we have left in here is just the warranty card. So this has my serial number on it, as well as a QR code for how to register the watch. When I did register the watch, it was really easy to do. It just took me to a web page where I typed in my name, purchase date, serial number, all that, and it was super straightforward. So we'll zoom in here on the watch roll and we'll take a look at what's inside. Of course, I already know, but we've got the Aquareef waiting for us. This was my first look at the watch when I opened the watch roll, and man, it is just a striking little watch. Really unlike anything else I have in the collection, to be honest. And I just really like the presentation here and the overall look of it. So let's get it off the watch roll here, and then I'll show you the rest of the watch. Now that's out of the watch roll, I want to talk about the price. What does this bad boy set you back? Well, I was a Kickstarter backer from the beginning, so for me, it cost me 280 British pounds. There are some still in stock on the website. If you want to buy one today, it looks like it's going to set you back around 329 pounds, which translates roughly to 420 US dollars, which does put it above other offerings on the market, such as the Erebus Origin and other, dive style micro brands. Keeping in mind though, this is a limited run passion project, and for that reason, I'm okay with the price that I paid, and I'm okay with the price that's on the website right now. This is a project that was not intended to turn a profit. This was a passion project from the beginning. It was, an individual taking their design and their inspiration and their passion for watches and putting it into a watch and making it come to life, building a brand from scratch. So for me, I was definitely happy to pay that price. This watch is unlike any other watch on the market. It certainly doesn't look like anything else I have in my collection. The colors are interesting. Clearly not just an off-the-shelf homage type watch, and it definitely stands out from most Kickstarter dive watches. So for that reason, I'm happy to pay what I paid. Let's talk about the design, since we did bring that up. This Aquareef is definitely taking some inspiration from the likes of Omega and Chr.Ward. More Chr.Ward in my opinion, which is definitely not a bad thing, especially since it is a British micro brand. Craig himself has admitted that he is a fan of Chr.Ward and has been for a really long time, as well as Omega. And he and I both share a really similar taste in watches, isn't that right? In fact, we actually own a few of the same models, including this C60 Atoll that I'm wearing today. He's also been trying to buy my Railmaster, which I'll show you later in the video, on a Golby strap. I've actually grown quite fond of that watch, so I'm not really sure that I'm going to sell it, but maybe someday I will. But back to the watch, we've got this really cool oil press dial that I'll zoom in on here. This is not unlike Seamasters and Chr.Ward divers of old. Very, very similar. These applied indexes are using something called RT8 Lume, which is not something that I'm too familiar with, but I will have to do a little bit more research on that. I'll go ahead and throw a Lume shot up here so you can see what that looks like. As far as the rest of the dial goes, we've got some lines of text here. Aquareef, automatic, 10 ATM water resistance. I do like that the automatic is in lowercase. I think it's kind of a cool little touch. And I do really like the Golby box logo here at the top. It was somewhat controversial, I think, from the community when the watch came out. A lot of people had thoughts about that logo. And in fact, on the next watch, the Coastal, it has been changed a little bit. I actually really liked the box logo. I thought it was just another way that the watch was set apart from its competition. I think it looks just fine here on the watch, although it does show through when the hands pass over it just a little bit, which I'll demonstrate here. Sticking with the design of the face and the hands and everything, we got to talk about the color here. And I really like this kind of metallic teal color that I've got here on mine. There were 6 different color options when this watch was launched, which is actually kind of insane to think about. for a brand new fledgling brand with a launch model to come out with 6 different colorways was pretty insane. And then they followed it up immediately after with 2 monochrome color models as well. So really 8 different SKUs for this watch at launch was kind of nuts. I don't really think you could go wrong with any of them. I did have a bit of analysis paralysis myself trying to pick one of the colors. Ultimately, I kept coming back to this white and teal, so that's what I went with. But again, I don't think you could have gone wrong with any of them. They're a super interesting color palette that you don't see that often. The most interesting ones, I think, are this teal and then also the white and orange. I just don't see too much orange on watches, especially in that kind of metallic sheen that we've got here. If I did have to buy another one, I might go with the all-white monochrome. I really like the look of that one. Or the white with navy blue. This teal does look a little bit feminine when it's paired on certain straps, which I'll show you later in the video. My wife really likes this watch, but that was the first thing she said to me when I had it on the teal strap, is that the watch looks a little bit feminine. And I think it's the only color option from Golby that I could say that of. I think all the other colors are totally fine. This is one I might only be comfortable wearing in summertime. Definitely not a year-round watch for me personally. But let's move on. Looking at the case itself, we got these lugs that really remind me of a Chr.Ward C60. And I'll put my C60 Atoll next to it so you can see. Definitely a similar design here. Certainly inspired by Chr.Ward, no doubt. You could take a look at the lugs here and see what I'm talking about. He did end up putting female Endlinks on this watch, which does a really nice job of letting that bracelet drop down exactly where the lugs end, which really limits its overall presence. It does have quite a long lug-to-lug distance, which I'll put up on the screen here. But because he went with female Endlinks, it really does a lot to limit the presence of the watch and would make it wear just a little bit smaller on the wrist. So I do appreciate that. Male Endlinks would have just made it stick out that much further. Talking about the rest of the case, we have really nice brushing here. Nice brush finishing on the lugs and the bracelet. And then on the side of the case, we've got vertical brushing. Kind of a slab-sided look, pretty interesting. Got a signed Golby crown at 3 o'clock, as well as a second crown there at 2 o'clock. No crown guards, which I found kind of interesting. But I think it was probably just to make room for that second crown, if I had to guess. Both are screw-down crowns. As far as design goes, again, this does stand out quite unlike anything else in my collection in many ways. So for that reason, I think it's a interesting and cool design. Moving on to the bezels, which is not something I typically say, but there are 2 bezels on this watch. We have this inner rotating bezel, which is our dual time function, which we'll talk about in a minute. But above that, we've got this nice white ceramic insert bezel with a nice coin edge, and it is a 120 click. And what makes this bezel kind of unique is the fact that it's a countdown bezel, which is not too common in the watch world. The only other watch that I can think of off the top of my head that has that is the Tudor Pelagos FXD. So you'll notice that the numbers are reversed compared to a traditional dive watch. You'll have the 10 here on the left rather than on the right. And the reason for that is because it is a countdown timer. It does exactly what it sounds like. You set the watch to, let's say 30 minutes here on the minute hand. And then as soon as the minute hand follows all the way down to that bezel pip here, we know that 30 minutes have passed and that was our target. Really, really cool that he went that route. I know it's just another way that the watch stands out against the competition. All right, so let's talk about the inner rotating bezel, because this is the Aquareef dual timer. And what that means is that this allows you to track 2 time zones. We can set the hands exactly how you would any other watch. So I got my standard hands here set to the marketing time, which is 10:10 or whatever. And then the inner rotating bezel allows us to set another hour. So it only goes up to 12, but for the sake of argument, using like GMT or UTC, the fact that this is a British brand and Craig is at British Watchmakers Day right now, I thought it was kind of fun to put it at 8. I'm at Pacific time, so it is exactly 8 hours ahead of me over in Britain right now. So that's how I have mine set. But you could set it to any other hour you want and track your time zone that way. It's a pretty easy way to set the time if you're traveling without having to change the actual hands on your watch. Just unscrew the crown here exactly like you would any other crown, and then it just rotates that easily. So set it back to 8 here, and then you just push it in and screw it down exactly like you would any other watch. Flipping the watch over, we are greeted with a Seiko NH35A with the automatic rotor there, signed with the Golby logo, which is kind of a cool touch. Ubiquitous movement, powerhouse movement, very reliable, really hard to go wrong here. For a first watch, you don't want any quality control issues, so I think this was a really safe choice, and I am not going to complain. This is rated to plus or minus like 20 to 40 seconds a day. This one today for me is running at about 10 to 15 seconds a day, which is really good. Has a 41-hour power reserve. And again, not much else to talk about here. It's a Seiko movement. Now that we've covered the design, let's talk about some other specs here on the watch. We do have sapphire crystal on the face. We do have that ceramic insert for the 120 click bezel. Turning the watch over, we have sapphire crystal on the case back, as well as some quick release spring bars that make it really easy to swap that bracelet out for a strap. We have a signed Golby clasp here that might remind you of a certain brand with a crown for a logo. And opening it up, we have a polished inner working under that safety clasp, which is also very reminiscent of that same brand. And the most reminiscent is possibly this quick adjust system, where you kind of glide and then lock the position in. But I do really appreciate that at the price point that he is asking, that this stuff is included. It is a super comfortable bracelet. It's a really nice clasp, super easy, quick adjust, of course. Oyster style bracelet, always appreciated, very classic design. Nice brush finishing here, good articulation in the links. Really, really like the bracelet overall. Hard to complain about anything here. Does have cotter pins to remove the links, so it's pretty easy to do. And there were plenty of extra links included in the box, so that was nice as well. Of course, no watch is perfect, so there are a few things I would improve for the next release. One is that the bracelet did need one more removable link. Unfortunately, I had to destroy a permanent link to get a proper fit for me on my 17-centimeter wrist, which is 6.7 inches. I do think that that was a mistake by manufacturing more than it was by design. I did talk to Craig about this, and he did say that it was not intended, and that any future iteration of the watch and bracelet or any future watches released will definitely have the correct number of removable links. But here is the link that I destroyed, unfortunately, to get this one to fit me. On my 17-centimeter wrist, I had to have the Glide-Lock set all the way to the inside, and the watch was still loose on me with all the links removed. But now that I've got that link out, I have a really, really nice fit here, and the Glide-Lock system is usable. Before, I wasn't able to take advantage of that Glide-Lock system, so I really do appreciate that I got the full functionality back here in the watch, and all I had to do was remove that one permanent link here. Other than that, we do have a little bit of loose play here in the lug at 12 o'clock. So I found that a little bit frustrating over time. I'm not sure that it was that way immediately from the factory. I've been wearing this for a few months now, but I just started noticing it the other day. So that was one other thing I did want to note. The Lume is really good, but having a Lume bezel insert would have been kind of cool. And also just the fact that the indexes here are a little bit small, and maybe it would have been cool to see them kind of vary in size at maybe like the 6, 9, and 12. I do think that there's a lot of real estate space that could have been taken advantage of here on the dial. Other than that, the Lume is good, so really no complaints there. Now, 100 meters of water resistance might be fine for most watches, and in my applications, it'll be totally fine with this one. But I do think with the price and overall design and aesthetic of the watch, the 200 meters was expected. I was a bit surprised to see it was only 100 meters. Again, no one is diving more than 100 meters in this watch, and no one's diving 100 meters in general. I think this watch will be more than fine for everyone that wears it. But I think just because of the profile and aesthetic and overall design, it was a little bit surprising to see 100 meters instead of 200. I know that's already been changed on the Coastal. The Coastal is going to have 200, so you can look forward to that as well. None of these are deal breakers, just things that I think could refine an already very solid design from the Aquareef. Just a couple little imperfections here on an otherwise really, really nice watch. All right, in the next portion of the video, I'm going to talk about some straps, because Golby doesn't just make watches, they've got a full range of straps too. They retail for around 25 pounds to 29 pounds, and they've got some really unique designs. Craig started out making straps before he started designing his watch, so he's got a lot of straps to look at. It's actually kind of an overwhelming website to navigate. He's got 128 different watch SKUs that I counted. Maybe could organize that a little bit better. But I got a few different straps here that I'll show you on a few different of my favorite watches. First one I'll show you is my Railmaster. I know Craig really loves the Railmaster, so he'll like to see a Golby strap here on this denim dial Railmaster. And then I'll show you off a few more here. As we wrap up the video, I'm going to talk about Golby's second watch, which launches on Monday, March 11th on Kickstarter. That is the Coastal. Little spoiler, I did, reach out to Craig and ask him if I could buy a British Watchmakers Day edition if they had any left over. And he said if, British Watchmakers Day is over, he's got anything left in stock, he'll let me know. And he did, in fact, have one and let me order it. So I do have that one on the way. I'm really excited to take a look at that one. So that video will follow up this one. What we do know so far without it in my hand is that it's a 200-meter water-resistant 36mm diver using BGW9 Super Luminova. It has a butterfly clasp with half links. Gone is the display case back. Instead, we have a solid case back with some unique artwork created by Craig's niece. Features a sun and wave embedded into a fingerprint, which kind of represents the UK's coastline. The coastal design was purely by Craig's wife, Sarah, from what I understand. And no offense, Craig, sorry. I do think I'm more of a fan of the coastal overall. So the wife wins another argument. The coastal is my favorite of the two watches. Not that there's anything wrong with the Aquareef, but the coastal really speaks to me. I really like the size and I really like the design overall. So kudos to Sarah. Nailed that one. I love the color scheme that is coming on my watch from British Watchmakers Day. It's an extremely limited watch, and because Craig had his table parked adjacent to Chr.Ward, I am a little bit surprised that it didn't sell out. But I'm really thankful and really happy that I'm getting one. I feel incredibly blessed to have that opportunity without having to travel all the way to the UK. But the coastal will have another 6 incredible color options to look at. Similar to the Aquareef, it's very impressive to me that he can launch a watch with 6 different colorways. But if you're itching to get your hands on a Golby sooner, and you're not willing to wait for the Kickstarter, which I think you should, definitely take advantage of the Kickstarter and help them get that funded. But there are some watches for the Aquareef still in stock on the website, and I will drop a link in the description for that if you want to take a look at those. Now, just to close out the video, I want to say I spent a lot more time prepping this video because I do correspond with Craig somewhat regularly. I initially reached out to him on Facebook just as a fan of the watch because I was in his Facebook group, and also because I was really curious about his experience starting a microbrand. I've been in business school at night for the last 2 years studying entrepreneurship, and I just kind of thought a startup watch brand was a really interesting, unique case study, and I wanted a little bit more information, maybe to make a presentation of some kind. Unfortunately, my group went with like a Indian food, Chipotle, fast food concept instead, so we presented on that. They weren't too interested in watches. That's more my thing than their thing, but that's fine. It all worked out. I still had a really great time working with Craig and getting to know him, learning more about his manufacturing and Kickstarter process and just his overall experience making a watch. So what do you think about the Golby Aquareef? And what do you think about the Coastal? And will you be joining the Coastal's Kickstarter campaign? I think you should. Link will be in the description. Let me know in the comments what your thoughts are and which watch strap you like the most. And if you like this kind of watch content, you know what to do. Hit subscribe, like the video, and I'll see you in the next one.